Welcome back to our coverage from Talladega Superspeedway as drivers are back behind the wheel of their race cars in preparation for the second race of the night, the sixth race of the season for the Upper Edge Racing Baadteshop Superspeedway Series. If you're just joining us, we've already run a 30-lapper here at Talladega, the first of our Dega duels. It was Shane Tyrion who went to victory lane in the Fly Goose Fly 80. The Goose's wings were clipped, so now we're getting ready for the Run Goose Run 80, another 30-lap duel here at Talladega Superspeedway. With Tyrion winning, it now puts the streak of 5 races, 5 different drivers going to victory lane. As a matter of fact, Shane Tyrion's victory becomes the first for Hula Monkey Motorsports here this season. Team Trap House has had 2, and Sky Motorsports has had 2. First time that Toyota team breaks into victory circle. Will we have a 6th different winner here this evening in this final dual race? We of course ended up having in our first dual race as well the first Dash for Dong race. Blake Trawick finishing in the 15th position, netting himself a nice little purse. With Tyrion winning the first dual race, he is now locked into the next Dash for Dong race, and the winner of this race, not named Shane Tyrion, will end up being locked in as well. If Tyrion ends up sweeping the Dega duels here tonight, then the second place finisher of this upcoming event will be the next driver eligible. With 30 laps under their belt here, 3 big ones during the course of the first dual race, it will be interesting to see what the drivers' approach are for this second upcoming duel. We talked with our podium finishers before we took our little break, and a lot of them are expecting that we're going to see a lot more of the same and maybe a little bit more aggression here in this second race. Why? Well, as stated, they've already run 30 circuits here. They know what the cars can do. They know what is available to them in terms of momentum, in terms of runs, in terms of utilizing the draft. And they also know that that apron down below the yellow line is available to them to try and pick up spots, especially in the closing stages. We had about a half dozen drivers utilize that strategy, some to their benefit, some to their detriment, on the final lap of the first race. We managed to not go into overtime. We ran all 30 laps under regulation. Will we end up seeing our first overtime of the night here? We will have to wait and find out. Looks like these drivers here have gotten themselves gridded up in the second group qualifying session. Robert Pankow got the pole position for this one. We talked about it in the first dual race. He's doing the fill-in substitute duties for John Poole III here tonight. He'll be alongside of Joey Chapman. Chapman qualified well in the first dual race, but was involved in the first wreck of the night. We'll see if he gets a little better luck here in this one. Looks like row number 2 is going to be comprised of our winner from just a few moments ago, Shane Tyrion, looking for back-to-back victories and a sweep here in the Dega duels. He'll have Chad Winstead to his outside, and the driver that got the pole in the first dual race will roll off from the 5th position. That is Benjamin White, who brought it home in P3 in our first dual race. Now, a little bit of a development took place during our break as well. You're going to be seeing 2 number 31s on the racetrack. Now, originally, Dylan Poteet was not scheduled to be in either of the dual races, but he did make it home in time. He has climbed aboard one of the number 31 cars in this field. The other 31 car, who's rolling off from the 6th position, is still Dylan Body, who was going to fill in for Poteet for both races, but he only had to fill in for the first race, which he brought it home in 5th. Poteet will run for his own points here in dual race number 2 that is underway. Toyota's on the bottom, a Toyota and the Ford on the top. Pankow versus Chapman going into turn number 1. Look, we got a couple of other drivers as well that were not in the first dual race that are taking part in the second duel. One of them falling to the back there. Actually, that's the 7 of Cam Barnes, who was in the first duel, but we didn't see a whole lot of him. And it looks like we're not going to see a lot of him in the early going of this one, as he is looking like voluntarily dropping to the back. Scott Puckett, that bright yellow number 90, 5th on the inside line. We didn't see him in dual race number 1. And right behind him is the 35 of Sam Dyer, who we didn't see in the first dual race. Looks like we've increased the field size from dual 1 to dual 2, which means a lot more cars on the racetrack, a lot more points up for grabs, and more than likely a lot more cars that could get torn up if we end up having another big one. We had 3 of them during the course of the first 30 lap duel just moments ago. As inside line, middle line continuing dead even with Panko and Chapman. Got a third line trying to form with two cars up there. That is Connor Holden and Carl Faust. Looked like Jacob Holm wanted to go up there. They had too much momentum for him to be able to tuck in line and lead the third lane. And now the middle line gets the momentum through the back straightaway as there's contact between Panko and Dylan Body there going into turn 3. They both managed to save it. We avoid the caution at least for the moment, and the top two of Chapman and Winstead are going to open up a little bit of daylight with their tandem over third place on back. Look at the run there, though. They were too far out in front. Holm and White, they're going to tandem together. They're going to pull up to the outside. Faust is going to join them where the momentum is. And all of a sudden, what was looking like a good situation for the 60 and the 6 now puts them down as the proverbial sitting duck, or I guess in this case, the sitting goose, as they now are going to get freight trained on that middle groove. Here comes the 76 of Holm, who was very strong in the first dual race, led, I believe, the most laps in that one, before he eventually got shuffled to mid-pack and ultimately finished the race outside of the top 10, but looking strong again here in this second dual race as he's trying to clear for the top position. Inside line will not give up. Dead even through the tri-oval. Chapman on the bottom, Holm on the top. Still that outside line with Holden. Now Matthew Rodriguez is wingman, trying to make something happen. They don't have the numbers. Speaking of numbers, looks like the field is broken up a bit. You've got about roughly 11 or 12 cars up in this lead group back to Sam Dyer, and then it looks like there's a number of drivers back here that are in ride mode, waiting to see what happens. We talked with, I believe it was Shane Tyrion, about the question of, do you want to, based off what you saw in the first race, really preserve that faster pair for the second half of this one? I think all those drivers that are running towards the back of the pack here, way away from the lead group, they're adopting that strategy. Keep those cars in one piece. Keep that faster pair in your hip pocket for later on in this race, because you're probably gonna need it. Looking back from the Team Trap House number 76, Ford Mustang of Jacob Holm, to the Toyota Camry of Joey Chapman, and you could just see the movement back and forth here. For us visibly, you could see these cars weaving back and forth as the utilization of the draft, the side draft pulling a driver back, feeling the air on both your left and right side when you're that car that's stuck in the middle. We can visibly see it. The drivers, they feel it a little bit. For the most part, I think they've kind of gone numb in terms of feeling that sensation. It's now a normal for them. So we get nervous up here in the booth, but for them, it's just a normal Friday night, as there is one of the 31 cars, and he's going to get turned. Dylan Poteet in the 31 got hooked, and he's going to get popped in the air, nose grinding, and now on his roof. Oh, this is almost shades of last week for Dylan Poteet as he's back on his lid. This happened to him last week at iRacing Superspeedway where he had to call a tow. Looks like Matthew Rodriguez is going to try and get him turned back onto his wheels here. Also help from Steve Rada so he doesn't have to take the tow. Can they get him turned up on his wheels before he ends up having to teleport back to pit road? Remember, Poteet is running for his own points here, and he came into this weekend as the points leader. I'm not sure they're going to be able to get that thing back on its wheels. Oh, maybe right there. Oh, nope, not quite. Rodriguez doing everything in his power to get that 31 turned back over. And it just looks like that it's at the wrong angle here. I don't think he's going to be able to. Poteet's going to have to call a tow. That's back-to-back weeks that the points leader has had something like that happen. Last week, he was sliding down the banking of iRacing Superspeedway on his roof and was not able to flip back over. Never was really able to get back into the conversation for the checkered flag. And now here, early issues for Poteet. I believe the contact began between him and the 90, Scott Puckett. Poteet getting hooked in the right rear quarter panel. Watch right here as Puckett gets a run. He jumps up to the outside, and as he made that move, looks like the back end of the car steps out on him. It directs him down into the right rear of Poteet, and then right here, you're going to see Dylan Poteet after he hits the wall. Right there, that slight bit of contact from Chad Winstead pops him up in the air, the splitter grinding on the racing surface, and right there, as the car comes down onto its roof, no momentum from side to side to allow him to flip back over, and it slides all the way towards the entrance of turn number one, still on its lid. You saw the effort of Steve Rada and Matthew Rodriguez to try and get him turned back over, but Poteet unfortunately having to call the tow. Here's a look at it in real time as you see the 90 get really loose. A lot of other drivers collected up in this one. Rodriguez, Faust, Connor Holden as well. A lot of drivers able to just skirt their way through, avoid a lot of those drivers. A lot of racing surface down there on the apron heading into turn one. A couple of drivers having to split the gap. Here's on board with the 72 of Matthew Rodriguez, who did a great job of getting through a big wreck in the first dual race, but right there just gets clipped in the right rear quarter panel by Carl Faust. Takes a shot right there as well into the right side of his machine, and we saw him then back it up to try and help Dylan Poteet, but unfortunately to no avail. Dylan Poteet with a case of deja vu from last week. Now, the good news for Poteet is the fact that it occurred very early on in this race. He may have enough time that even if he goes a lap down, he may have enough time to be able to catch a caution, get the lucky dog, be back in the lead lap. Boy, how about that? Nothing but pavement. And then the sparks from the roof flaps dragging, the roof rails dragging on the asphalt. What a helpless feeling as he ends up upside down on his roof waiting for assistance, which unfortunately didn't work out. But Poteet last week, the incident he was involved in was around 2/3 of the way through that race, so he didn't have nearly as much time to be able to get back up into the conversation for the race lead. Here in this one, yes, it's an expedited race. It's only about half the laps that we would normally run in a normal Talladega race. So there is less time available, but the fact that it occurred in the first third of this race still gives Dylan Poteet a shot of potentially getting back up into this conversation. But he will more than likely need the aid of a yellow to get back on the lead lap, as more than likely, especially in the area of the racetrack where his car came to rest, that's going to be one of the more lengthier tows. He wouldn't have had as long a tow if it had been over on the back straightaway or in 3 and 4, but being over in turn one, much longer stay on pit road. There you see him, right side of the screen, still sitting in his stall, waiting to be released. This caution is roughly around the time that we had the second caution in duel number one. It may very well have eliminated the conversation of whether these drivers would have been able to make it the full 30 scheduled laps on fuel. A lot of drivers coming down, topping off the fuel tank here. So more than likely, this caution kind of puts everybody in the window that they can make it the rest of the way. The only time they'd have to come to pit road from now to the checkers would be for damage repair, or maybe if you're at the back of the pack, you come down, top off again, maybe take on some tires to try and make some forward progress. This looks familiar. Jacob Halm, he was out in front for a restart back in duel number one. He's back out in front again for another restart in duel number two. He'll have Sebastian Miller to his outside. Dylan Body is going to line up in third. Dustin Logston in fourth. Looks like Blake Trawick, who was the winner of the Dash for Dong back in the first dual race, is going to be the completion of the top five. He's the highest running of our former winners so far. Documented the fact 5 different race winners in these first 5 races. Shane Tyrion the most recent. But now with Dylan Poteet in the field, we have 4 former winners that have a shot of maybe picking up their second win on the season, which would put them at the very top of the leaderboard for most wins in Season 5. Pace car will make the left-hand turn to pit road this time by Jacob Halm. Will complete lap number 9, put lap number 10 on the board, and we'll be back underway. Keep you updated on the 31 of Dylan Poteet and his situation. I believe he is still sitting on pit road, so he is definitely going to lose at least 1 lap. If he loses 2 laps, he's going to need multiple cautions to be able to get back on the lead lap. But still early on here in this second duel of the night, as Jacob Holm and Sebastian Miller, a Ford and a Toyota, going to bring us back down here into the Geico restart zone and get us back under green in the Run Goose Run 80. Middle line trying to get something going there. Sebastian Miller, Dustin Longston, DJ Stagner there as well in the 64. Looks like the inside line gets the early advantage on these restarts through 1 and 2, but then that middle line, as soon as they get formed up, they carry a lot of momentum off of turn 2 and down the back straightaway. Looks like inside line through the corners, middle line on the straights and through the tri-oval is where the momentum surges take place. And now we got a third line forming, a little bit of a two-car tandem. That's Roberto Ramirez up there on the top with help from Sean Billman. Billman coming home in the 4th position in the first dual race. He was pretty much the deciding factor into who got back to the start-finish line first, pushing Shane Tyrion to the checkered flag in the first dual race, as we're on board with the O'Quinn Keystone Racing Machine, the 42 of Roberto Ramirez. And look at the run he's gonna get off of turn number 2 and down the back straightaway. He may be clear for the lead by the time they get to turn 3. And indeed he is, and he'll now jump all the way from the 3rd lane down to the security of the double yellow line, the shortest way around the racetrack, right in front of the 83 of Sebastian Miller. 3 wide as well around the 3rd position, around the 7th position. How about stack them up 3 wide, 4 rows deep? Shane Tyrion's going to go up the middle and try and make it 4 wide. You think that victory earlier on tonight doesn't give him a little bit of confidence to make some moves? That's going to put him from about 12th place now up to 2nd. How about for the race lead? Not quite clear there on Sebastian Miller. They'll be 3 wide off of 2 with Tyrion in the middle, Miller on the bottom. Billman, who pushed Tyrion to the victory, high, wide, and handsome on the top. Looks like Tyrion's going to fade back, and Billman's going to get the push from Chapman. He's going to be clear for the race lead going into turn 3. Benjamin White, strong in the first race, brought it home in the 3rd position. He gets shuffled out all by himself up there on the top side, but was trying to make his way back up into the top 5, and Mike Tellier going to try and help him out. Inside line charging back again. Miller with help from Ramirez up against Chapman in the middle line pushing Sean Billman. Now Chapman moves up to the 3rd lane trying to pick up Shane Tyrion. Slide move to the top side there for Longston in the 33. These drivers slipping and sliding around, taking every run that they can. They don't want to have to lift. They want to keep the momentum moving forward. And a lot of drivers slicing and dicing up here inside of the top dozen or so. Much bigger lead pack than we had in the early going also. Remember, we ended up having about 12 drivers up in the lead group and then another dozen drivers that kind of were hanging back waiting to see what happened. Now as we near the halfway point, looks like everybody, since they now know they can make it on fuel, everybody wants to get into the conversation, up into the top 5, the top 10, and eventually up into the race lead as 3 wide behind Roberto Ramirez. Inside line still Miller. Middle line is Benjamin White. Billman on the top side with help from Carl Faust and Bronson Stafford. Saw there on the ticker, Dylan Poteet. He's back on the track, but he is 2 laps down. Situation would have been better for him had he been 1 lap down. He will have to rely on multiple yellow flags to get back on the lead lap, as that was very nearly the first yellow he needed. Jason Shuey in that middle groove pushing up, almost got into the driver's side door of Carl Faust in that number 3 machine. The bright red and orange, far cry from the blue 3 that we're used to seeing him drive. We saw him running that in the first dual race. Change of colors as well there for Mike Tellier. Saw him just shift from the top to the bottom. He's now in the Matt Muir Designs Toyota Camry. We saw him earlier in the Hello Kitty black and pink machine in dual race number 1. As Roberto Ramirez How about the number 42 out in front and showing the way in this race? Roberto Ramirez not only trying to become the 6th different winner on the season, but he's looking for his first career win in the series overall. Got a number of drivers up here that are looking for that first victory of their Baadteshop Superspeedway Series career. Benjamin White made his series debut earlier on in the first dual race. Jacob Halm there in the 76 looking for his first victory. Same for Sebastian Miller. So a lot of potential first-timers here up at the front as we've just crossed the halfway point here in dual race number 2. These drivers here tonight looking to take a checkered flag at the second longest super speedway that we run on the schedule. iRacing Superspeedway, the longest. These drivers next week, they'll be heading to the shortest super speedway on the schedule, as we'll be at the Atlanta Superspeedway, the mile-and-a-half D-shaped reconfigured super speedway. We were originally supposed to be there last week, but instead its date got swapped with iRacing Superspeedway. It's bookending these Dega duels, so iRacing SS was last week, Atlanta next week, next Friday night. Who will be heading in as the defending winners, potentially? Shane Tyrion knows he'll be one of them. Will he be the only one is the question, or will there be another driver, a different driver that wins here this evening? Look at the momentum here with our shot on the back straightaway of the different lines. Inside line for a moment had the momentum, then the outside line, then the middle line pulls back up along even. Sometimes it doesn't even matter about the number of cars you have in your respective line. It just depends on a pusher, that second car in line, as to whether your lane is the lane that's going to be back to the start-finish line first. As right there on that top line, second car in line, that's Robert Kenny. He's looking for a little bit of redemption from the first dual race where he came up runner-up to Shane Tyrion. He wants that one position better. He wants to get to victory lane, and we heard him during the post-race interviews. Right now, he and Mike Tellier, they were heading into last week at iRacing Superspeedway tied for most victories overall in the Baadteshop Superspeedway Series. Now, with Mike Tellier's victory last week, Tellier stands alone in that category. Kenny wants to bring it back to a tie again, and he wants to do it here in this second dual race. Roberto Ramirez, Jacob Halm, kind of taking a page out of the book that Halm did back in the first dual race. Just keep it on the inside line. Let everything happen in the middle and outside lines. Just stay committed, and more often than not, it has worked out in their favor. Now Dylan Body with a big push to Benjamin White. Ooh, that was close right there as Body pushed up. Almost got right reared by Sebastian Miller, who's up in that third lane with Sean Billman. A lot of movement out of that 31 car of Dylan Body. We documented about the fact that he finished 5th, substituting for Dylan Poteet in the first race. Poteet in the field here for the second race, so Dylan Body is not in a substitute capacity. He is running for his own points now here in this second dual race, as he'll swing up to the outside line, pick up the 83 of Sebastian Miller, and he'll put the 11 of White in the middle line. DJ Stagner almost, I think, thought about sticking it up the middle 4 wide. And now, Body clearing the 11 will move back down to the middle. Miller will lead the top line, and Roberto Ramirez remains committed to that double yellow line. I believe at the very tail end of this pack is the 31 of Dylan Poteet. So the good news for him is he is at least up here in this lead group. If he was running by himself, it would be a greater chance of him going a third lap down. And he very nearly got the caution he was looking for, as a couple of cars in the wall, a couple of cars very loose there in the middle of this pack. But so far, so good. I don't dare talk about green flag runs, because the last time I did it back in the first dual race, they wrecked in the following corner. So I don't want to put the commentator's curse on these guys for a second dual race in a row. As middle line prevails this time, Benjamin White's going to lead the lap, but here comes Roberto Ramirez, who was committed to the inside line. Now he moves to the middle groove. He'll pick up DJ Stagner, and 5 rows of 3 wide through 1 and 2 as we are at the 10 to go mark. Going body loose there off a turn two on the back straightaway, trying to stay locked to the bumper of the JBL Toyota Camry of Benjamin White. DJ Stagner, the drafting help for Roberto Ramirez in the middle. And the outside line looks like they've lost their momentum. Sebastian Miller and Sean Billman, they do have some help up there in Cam Barnes and Dustin Longston, but it looked like they lost momentum through 3 and 4, now trying to gain it back on the front straightaway here back to the start-finish line. Big check up there. As you see from our aerial shot in that middle line going into turn one, Kenny had to drag the brakes. So too did Carl Faust to avoid running over Connor Holden, the third car in that middle line. And now the middle and outside line through the straightaway start to make their way back up towards the front. 3 wide for the lead going into turn 3. It's like a slow car up ahead. That's Matthew Rodriguez in the 72, who had lost the lead pack, and now he's going to go a lap down. That's going to be even more of a difficult situation for Dylan Poteet, because if a caution comes out now, oh, and that is the holy cow, Sebastian Miller just entered the stratosphere. And the caution's going to fly as we've got a big one going into turn 1. Sebastian Miller cleared all 4 stories of the catch fence and then some. How that car is still under power, I don't know. Look at this, the toe on the skew of the 12 of Carl Faust as that thing is literally drifting back to the start-finish line. How that machine is still running, I do not know. There you see the suspension damage on Carl Faust, trying to nurse that thing back to pit road. And a number of drivers collected up in that one, but it started with Miller, and that happened so fast. I don't know if he got right reared and might have hit a potential glitch spot maybe in the outside safer barrier, but that thing got turned and then went straight up. That wasn't even a forward flip. That was literally a complete vertical flip for the 83 car. And again, as I said, with Matthew Rodriguez just then going a lap down, if he wasn't involved in the incident, Rodriguez gets the free pass and Poteet does not. He still would remain 2 laps down, and as we said, we're at less than 10 to go. Time has essentially run out for Poteet to be able to get back on the lead lap. Take a look at this. This happened so fast, so hopefully the slow motion cam will give us an idea of what happened. Contact there into Stagner. Looks like Miller thought he was clear up with Billman, and right there, yeah, I think what happens is the 83 catches the very start of the safer barrier heading into turn 1. That and a combination of the 06 of Billman kind of driving underneath his machine lifts the car up into the air. And that was maybe the highest flip we have seen this season. We've seen some high flips here in the past in the Baadteshop Superspeedway Series. This may very well be the highest overall that we have ever seen in a race, regardless of what season and what racetrack. Look at this for Billman. Suddenly Miller is there, and then he's not. That's DeRosa right there in the 23 that got hooked up into the outside wall. A bunch of other drivers obviously caught up in this one, getting bits and pieces of the wreck. The main focus, of course, on the 83 of Sebastian Miller. But I believe Bronson Stafford, we saw him get a late hit in this wreck. Let's see who else was involved here. Cam Barnes, Blake Trawick, Jason Shuey, Ty Smith. Brandon Lambert got involved. There's the hit right there into Carl Faust, the late hit for Bronson Stafford. Bunch of drivers just trying to avoid that incident. I mean, where does a driver's mind go into where to avoid a car that flips straight up in the air? Then again, as well, Sean Billman involved. They had to avoid him. Carl Faust got hooked, so they had to avoid him. This is on board with Stafford, who gives us the look. Look at that. What goes through a driver's mind when they see a car go that high up into the air? Dustin Longston, saw him involved. I believe that I may have just seen the 35 of Sam Dyer down there near the inside wall, might have been involved in this one. Here's the 35s on board with Sam Dyer. Look at the height on that car. Oh, Sam actually looks like he avoided it all, pulled it right down there to the inside wall. Steve Rada, Dylan Poteet all do the same. So not involved in the wreck, able to avoid there was Sam Dyer in the 35. Here's on board with the Bass Bro Shops, number 3 of Jason Shuey. Whoa, you just see right up there on the top right, the car flying in the air. Oh, nowhere to go as Cam Barnes comes right down the track into Shuey's path. Big hit with the front end of that race car. Here's on board with rookie Cam Barnes. We didn't see much of him in the first duel. He was doing a great job up there in the latter half of the top 10 in this one. Just wrong place, wrong time. He was right behind Sean Billman. So that whole outside line checked up when the 06 went underneath the 83. Nowhere for them to go. Here's Blake Trawick, former winner on the season. Oh, he almost got through. Almost got through. Got clipped in the right rear quarter panel there by Cam Barnes, and then hooks the 23 of DeRoser up the track. DeRoser taking a pretty good shot front end into the outside safer barrier into the entrance of turn number 1. Well, a bunch of the drivers involved in that did have their faster pair available. You'd have to think that a majority of them would have taken it on right here and right now as you see them doubled up. We're going to get the green with 4 laps to go. There's no guarantee that we're going to have extra laps of going into overtime. We ran the first dual race under regulation, made it back to the white flag. We did have the wreck coming back to the checkers, but we only had to run the 30 allotted regulated laps for that one, and we may do the same one here in this second dual race. How about Roberto Ramirez, though? This is, regardless of if he wins here tonight, this has got to be the best race we've seen him put together ever since he started his career here in the Baadteshop Superspeedway Series. He's been up front all night long, led a number of laps. When he's lost the lead, he's jumped up to the middle line to get the top spot back, and now he's hoping that he can lead final 4 circuits of the night as he elected the inside line. Benjamin White will line up to his outside, looking for his first win and only his second career start. Dylan Body going to line up in 3rd. Robert Kenny, the runner-up from earlier on tonight in the first duel, lines up in 4th. And Jacob Holm is going to complete top 5. More than likely at this point, if we get a caution before the white flag, we will go into overtime as Roberto Ramirez gets us back under green. Maybe too good of a restart. We'll have to see what the 11 of White is able to do as he tucks down the inside line, looking to generate a run here out of 2 and onto the back straightaway. Double wide stacked up behind them with Kenny on the top and Body on the bottom. Body moves up, White moves up. A lot of blocking going on here off of turn 2. That's going to fan them out down the back straightaway. And White's going to have a big push from Robert Kenny and Joey Chapman in that middle lane. He'll clear for the top spot and jump down in front of the 42 of Ramirez. The good news for Sebastian Miller, the fact he was able to drive that car back to pit road, he didn't have to call a tow. He is still on the lead lap, took on his faster pair, so we may not have seen the last of him. Man, that was close right there, up inside of the top 5. Little uneven shove from Steve Rada to Robert Panko. Panko was a little squirrely there at the start-finish line, hangs onto it, 3rd car in that outside line, as Robert Kenny with teammate Joey Chapman trying to make something happen to get the race lead away from Benjamin White and Roberto Ramirez on the inside line. 3rd lane trying to form. That's Steve Rada leading the charge with Dylan Body and Connor Holden. More drivers now jumping up there. There goes Longston. There goes Chapman. Now the middle line loses their numbers and a little bit of momentum. That's going to help the inside line. Looks like Dylan Poteet's back on the lead lap in the 31 car. I believe that was Poteet. Oh, look out! Are they going to wreck? They're trying to save it, and they're going to go around. That was Shane Tyrion in the 9. Caution's going to wave. We didn't make it back to the white. We're going to re-rack them for overtime. The dual 1 winner, Shane Tyrion, goes around after contact between himself and I believe it was Connor Holden. I can't believe with all the carnage we've seen tonight, but that may have very well just been a solo car incident for the most part. And this caution will fortunately give us a little bit of time as well to kind of figure out if indeed what I saw was correct, if Poteet is back in the lead lap, or if Dylan Body had just fallen towards the back end of the pack. But let's take a look at uh, what brought the caution out. I'm getting the confirmation that Poteet is still 2 laps down, so it was the other 31 car of Dylan Body that I saw at the tail end of the pack, as actually Dylan Body right there, front and center involved in this one. Gets into Shane Tyrion, who then gets up into Steve Rada, and only the 9 is the one that goes around there into turn 1. So a 3-car incident. That is the smallest wreck we've had so far here tonight. But it involves the defending winner from the first Dega Duel race earlier this evening, Shane Tyrion. Right there, you see the 31 gets loose, comes down into the 9. Man, Matthew Rodriguez narrowly avoided getting right reared. And some damage as well on the right side for Steve Rada, who got put up into the wall when the 9 came up the racetrack. Looked like I was out of the try over there for Dylan Body. That's about one of the worst areas for a driver in terms of their control of the race car. It's not a turn, it's not a straightaway. Back end of the car gets very, very light. It actually looks like right there, Steve Rada got into the wall, and Dylan Body moved left with a run to avoid him. And unfortunately, the piece of real estate he needed to get to the inside of Steve Rada was already occupied by Shane Tyrion. Nice look there from that slow-mo cam to give us an idea of what Dylan Body was dealing with here. Here's another look at it. Yep, definitely the 17 pancaking the wall. That scrubs off a lot of speed, and with it being at that point 2 laps to go, you're not going to lift for that car up ahead of you. You're not going to check up for him. You're going to try and find a hole, keep your momentum going, keep that thing planted to the floor, and try and pick up that spot. And unfortunately, it just wasn't enough space for Dylan Body to be able to make that move, and Shane Tyrion pays the price for it. So it'll be the first time tonight that we're going to head into overtime for a green-white checkered. Another look here at the incident into turn 1. Doesn't look like really, really bad damage for Shane Tyrion, but you'd have to wonder if he does have a faster pair available, if he would take it on here, since we are pretty much in the closing stages of this race in preparation for what could be the only overtime restart. We've got multiple attempts if necessary, but we didn't need any in the first duel race, and this is the first time that we're heading into overtime here tonight. Taking a look back at the number 11 of Benjamin White, your current race leader, the pole sitter from the first duel race, brought it home podium in his first start. 3rd place. Qualified well for this one in 5th. And now trying to close out the deal in only his 2nd start for his first checkered flag, as we look back at the field here from the 2024 HMR Tamarin pace car. Should be choose cone this time by, and we will rack them up and get ready to go back green for what should be, looks like 35 laps at this point. And we may need more laps depending on if they can get back to the white flag waving or not. Track temperature has been constant all night long. Been at a constant 78 degrees. Much cooler temperatures than what these drivers have had to deal with in the last couple of weeks. And of course, as well, we've seen that translate to drivers' ability to push and tandem a lot longer this evening. That's why we've seen the double wide and most importantly, three wide racing all the way through the pack and really no lane be able to gain an advantage because the second, third cars in line have the confidence that the engine's not going to overheat. They can keep those bumpers locked up together and keep that forward momentum moving. We're going to see a lot more pushing and probably a lot more shoving here in these closing stages as we're going to get ready for our first attempt at a green-white checkered. With Shane Tyrion involved in that last incident and the odds not necessarily in his favor of getting back up here to complete the Dega sweep, that means the odds are in favor of a second different driver locking themselves into the second Dash for Dong race coming up here later on this season. Tyrion locked himself in with the win earlier on. Another driver will join, and then I believe the winners from the next two races, or at least the second place finishers if we end up having a repeat winner of Tyrion or the eventual winner of this race at Atlanta and Daytona, they will end up joining in the four drivers to battle in the second and final Dash for Dong race in the season finale, with the championship hanging in the balance at iRacing Super Speedway. Well, we had ourselves an in-regulation green-white checkered back in the first dual race, and they were able to make it back around to the white. Now we have an overtime green-white checkered here in dual race number 2. Can they make it the 2.66 miles necessary to get back to the white flag? And we finish this thing with only 34 laps needed. Benjamin White, Jacob Holm the front row, Robert Kenny and Robert Pankow in row number 2. Then Joey Chapman, Roberto Ramirez, Cam Barnes, Chad Winstead, Cody Lamas up there inside of the top 10 with Brandon Lambert completing the top 10. Green flag in the air. Look at the movement around the 9th, 10th position. Up the middle goes DJ Stagner. He muscled Brandon Lambert out of the way to pick up that spot. Kenny to the top. Joey Chapman there to help with draft. Look at the run Jacob Holmes getting with Robert Pankow. He'll take it to the top 3 wide. Pankow trying to side draft and pull Chapman back. Kenny is clear of all 3 lanes. 3 wide, 3 rows deep. Lot of movement in that middle line. Out of 4. Try to make their way through the tri-oval and back to the white flag. Robert Kenny on the bottom. Chapman going to have a big push here from Roberto Ramirez. Got about 13 cars up in this lead group, and they did make it back to the white flag. Now it's bring home the checkers or the steering wheel, and a lot of drivers up here in the conversation to extend the streak to 16 different drivers going to victory lane here. Chapman gets hooked up into the wall. Big wreck behind. 4 drivers get away, at least up here in this lead quartet. More wrecking in the back there. Faust into the wall. Winstead into him. Still at the front, Kenny with a rear deck lid full of the 11 of Benjamin White. Then it's Cam Barnes. Where did he come from? He's up to 3rd. Ramirez there in 4th. Lambert in 5th. They're going to try that apron through the tri-oval. I guarantee you, top side goes White. 3 wide behind them. Ramirez, he goes to the apron. He's going to try for this win. 5 wide, look into the stripe. All right, it's going to be White who's going to win it on the top side with maybe a little bit of drafting help from Lambert. Benjamin White, only his 2nd start on the season, and he's got back-to-back podiums and a checkered flag in his 2nd start in the Upper Edge Racing Baadteshop Superspeedway Series. 2 positions up on where he finished in dual race number 1, and he becomes not only a first-time winner in his career in this series, but now extends the streak to 6 different drivers picking up checkered flags here in Season 5. Started 1st, finished 3rd in duel number 1. Started 5th, brings it home P1 here in duel race number 2. And not a scratch on that machine. Made the moves necessary. Was able to keep them at bay this time. He was leading them coming out of turn 4 on the white flag lap back in duel number 1, but was unable to hold off the teammates. This time, learned from the mistakes in duel number 1, and as soon as I say there's not a mark on that car, he ruffles up the left rear quarter panel in his celebration, but that's okay. Benjamin White bursting on the scene here. Took him only 2 races and 1 evening in the series to bring it home with the checkered flag, and has 2 podium finishes to his name. Oh, yeah, there you go. Have the right side match the left side on the rear of that machine. Benjamin White, unbelievable display here this evening. Bringing it home with the checkered flag. Another close finish here. This time they weren't 3 wide coming to the line. They were 4 and 5 wide coming back to the start finish line. But Benjamin White able to hold them all off to pick up this victory. Let's take another look at what happened in the closing stages. Joey Chapman going to get a bump right there from Roberto Ramirez. That kind of split the field up. You only had about 4 cars up in this lead group. And watch the move that Benjamin White is able to put on Robert Kenny here. He knows that the 10 is all by himself now. He had the 60 as a drafting partner. He knew he had to break up the teammates after what happened to him in duel number 1. And when he makes the move this time, he's going to have the drafting help. Cam Barnes is going to go up there with him. Gives him the draft that he needs through the tri-oval. Then when Ramirez goes down to the bottom and Barnes tries to shoot the gap up the middle, that shove right there, that little last-minute shove from Brandon Lambert could have been the difference maker into White getting back to the start-finish line. Otherwise, it could have very well been Kenny or Ramirez that took this thing. Second time as well here in as many races at Talladega that the car on the outside line wins the battle back to the start finish line. Shane Tyrion was the outside line car in duel 1. He was the first one back to the stripe, and White was the outside line car here in the second duel race, and he's the first one back to the checkered flag. There's a look at how close it was. Cam Barnes just barely going to edge out Roberto Ramirez for his first podium finish of the season, and a career day for Roberto Ramirez. Led a good portion of this race, and he'll get his first podium of the season as well. Well, what an incredible duo of finishes we were treated to here tonight, and it's time to get the driver's point of view coming through the tri-oval back to that checkered flag and all the calamity that occurred here during this final green-white checkered. Let's see if we can dial up the guy that brought it home in third place here this evening, the driver of the number 42, Roberto Ramirez. Hey, Roberto, it's the guys up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
I'll tell you what, career night for you. Front all night long in the conversation for this victory. We knew somebody was going to try that dive down to the apron there, coming to the start finish line. You almost pulled it off, had a lot of momentum there through the tri-oval. Was there anything else you could have done, or was that the move right there?
I think that was in that situation. That's pretty much the only shot I had. I honestly didn't even remember it was in play until like right as I was doing it. So I think maybe if I had realized it earlier and been able to plan a little bit better, could have had a better shot at working. But they just had too much help, too much of a run on the outside, and were able to clear. Sorry to the 60 car and everyone that got caught up in the last lap wreck. I I knew I know it's always sketchy with these cars trying to push in the corners or just push in general, but it's the last lap, so just had to try and help him, try and get him out front because that gave me the best chance, and unfortunately got him turned. So sorry to everyone that got caught up in that.
We haven't made all the starts here this season. 2 starts coming into tonight. No top fives, no top tens, but now you're going to be putting numbers in those columns. Was there anything Any benefit from the first Dega duel that we had earlier on of the stuff you were able to learn to apply to this second duel and be able to net the good finish?
Yeah, I think the biggest benefit for me in the second race was that I didn't get caught up in a wreck. Um, the first Dega race was, I think it was the first race of the season. I got caught up in a wreck early in that one, and it put me in a bad spot with fast repairs. Same thing happened in the first Dega race tonight. So both races that I've run at Dega this season previously, I got caught up in an early wreck, and it kind of put me in a bad spot. But I think just having my fast repair in the bank the whole race allowed me to go for it, and I learned a lot racing up front the whole race. So yeah, I think just having a clean car and clean race was super beneficial because it allowed me to actually be able to give full effort without worrying about what if I get in a wreck and like what if. Because in the first race I used up my fast repair early and got in the big one with like 10 to go, and it just I had no shot at the end. So yeah, that's
Well,
about it.
kept the car clean, kept it up front all night long. Had to pass a lot of cars to get to that point after starting back in the 24th position. Congratulations on a job well done. Arguably best performance of the season for this number 42 machine. Obviously, hopefully brings a lot of good momentum here down the home stretch, the remainder of the season for you. Before we let you get back to your celebrating here of your podium tonight, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for putting on the series, Dylan Body for sponsoring it, Matt Rod, and everyone who's involved in running it. Always fun to run these races when I get a chance.
Roberto Ramirez, third place here this evening in the second of the Dega duels. Congratulations on the great performance and best of luck here for the remainder of the schedule.
Yep, thank you guys, and thank you for the broadcast.
Roberto Ramirez there, and I'm pretty sure I'm saying this right. I believe it's the Fraternity of the Order of Eagles, sponsor that has gone to victory lane in the past in actual NASCAR at Daytona with Justin Haley. Granted, it was a rain shortened race, but nonetheless. And he brings that sponsored machine home third place here tonight. How about a driver we didn't talk about hardly at all in the first dual race, and he brings it home second place here tonight. Rookie driver Cam Barnes. Let's see if we can dial him up. Cam, the guy's up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
I got you.
Wow. Really a non factor back in duel number one. But here, front and center, a shot at winning this race here in duel number two. First off, I got to ask you, in that moment off of turn four, it didn't really look like there was anywhere for you to be able to go, but you were able to somehow shoot the gap up the middle in what was at the time a four wide situation. At that moment, with the momentum, did you think this is it? I'm going to be the first one back, get that checkered flag.
No, unfortunately not. The reason why is the 47 or 46 car came out from out of nowhere. Really had the run on all of us, and Ben was able to just kind of shade the block a little bit and get that final push he needed. If he doesn't get that, and we go try to go five wide there, there's a possibility I have the run with the 42 and the 10 racing really hard there on the inside. Um, I was just not lifting there. If anything happened, it happened at that point. Just gonna see what happened. I saw the 11 start to move up. The 10 was kind of trying to squeeze the 42 down to the yellow line. There was this perfect seven-sized hole right there, so I decided I'm gonna go for it and see what happens. And luckily, it's my best finish so far of the season. So yeah, that's really good. And then duel one just did not go the way I was hoping. I was hoping for a lot more calamity like in this race, and it didn't work out. So I changed up my strategy mid race in this one, and it somehow worked this time. So I don't know. I still don't know how to race these things. I still don't know how to win against these guys, but hopefully we'll figure it out soon.
Well, definitely best performance of the season so far for you, part of that rookie class. We're riding on board with your car here in that final green white checkered. Everything happens above you going into turn one on that white flag lap. So you're one of about four survivors off of turn two. With the way that these cars are, the drafting we see them be able to have, the runs they're able to generate, with being in just a pack of four, is there something that you're able to do yourself to be able to generate a run and make a move, or do you actually have to have the usual 3, 4 cars behind you to generate the energy to have forward momentum and make moves?
Yeah, you can do a little bit with these cars if you kind of just lay back just a little bit. Uh, if they're still wide open here and like the 10 and 11 were on the edge of the corner still trying to push each other, sometimes they can check each other up and you can get a massive headwind down there uh towards the tri-oval, and that's what I was hoping for. And luckily they got side by side, slowing each other up even more. And then all hell broke loose coming to the line, so I was able to squeak my way through. But in that moment, really just kind of hoping to see what happens. I was talking with Ben the whole night, so I was able to, kind of know what he was doing. So we try to make sure we could, finish well here. So I was going to push him. Then he gives me the hole, and I'm like, well, I might as well take it. So, yeah, it's very hard when you're that one car and there's two cars in front of you to make the right move. With Roberto behind you, he who just kind of, you don't know how he's feeling since the wreck happened literally right in front of him. So you don't know what he's going through there. You don't know if he's out for blood even more or what. So just kind of hoping there. And if I would have seen the 46 coming, maybe I could have gotten a run there, maybe try to win the race from him. But I was just more focused on the guys in front of me and just kind of praying and hoping I saw the checkered flag and not the inside wall. So.
Well, you bring it home in the second position here tonight. A great run for you. Been doing well in that rookie class battle as well. Got some pretty stout names in there. Pretty cool to see you bring it home on the podium here tonight. Not many people know, but Cam and I actually shared the track on the Air 2003 side back in the day. So,
Oh
congratulations on
yeah.
the great run there, Cam. And before we let you go, the floor is yours to thank some sponsors, do some shout outs.
Shout out to John Peterson, who is technically the team owner, even though he doesn't really race half the time. But I'll hold down the camp for him. And then just shout out to you guys for doing this, and shout out to all the people who race these things. They're a lot of fun. Haven't figured it out yet, but hopefully I'll be able to talk to you guys as the winner instead of second place, because second does suck a little bit. So also a good shout out for the NR folks. If any of you NR folks still out there, iRacing now is becoming more and more worth it. So just try to gravitate over there and you could make it just on the big screen.
Well, Cam Barnes, second place here tonight in the second of the Dega duels. Congratulations on the great run. Hopefully, this is a sign of continuation of good things to come here down the home stretch of the schedule.
I hope so too, Seth. I hope so too. I hope I get to talk to you guys a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Cam Barnes, your second place finisher here tonight in the second duel race at Talladega. Two top tens coming into this race, but nets his first top five of his career. And a driver that came into this race with absolutely no stats, but now is going to leave Talladega as a two-time podium finisher and a race winner, is down in victory lane. Let's see if we could dial up Benjamin White. Benjamin, is the guys up here in the FRM booth again. You got us?
Yep, good to be talking to y'all another time tonight here.
Yeah, we talked to you as the third place finisher back in the first duel race, and one of the key things you talked about was making sure you split the teammates up. You had the 10 up there, you had the 60 up there, you had teammates there that you had to work against, kind of the same scenario as the first duel race, but this time looked like you kind of learned a little bit of a trick from that first duel race and were able to break them up.
I mean, I wouldn't say I was able to break him up. Roberto kind of, I think he was indecisive where he wanted to go, and he clipped the 60 and turned him into the wall. Had that not happened, I was boxed in, and so I was just committed to push Robert Kenny there to the win because I'm not going to take it under the yellow. Like I know it's legal from what I heard, but that all that's going to do is cost us both positions, especially if it's a trial. So at that point, I knew I was going to be boxed in. Had something not happen on the outside. Luckily, some things happened on the outside, turned it into a single file race, and then out of four there, I had Cam Barnes, who I run in another league with, um, right behind me, and he went with me there out of four. Uh, Robert was doing a good job of mirror driving, but I was barely able to get to the outside there, and from there it was just playing the lines and finally the block out of the try over there on Lambert. I felt was really close, but it was my only chance of holding Cam off right there, which was able to do. So very, very, very fun racing tonight.
Well, we had a 3 wide finish to cap off the first dual race earlier on this evening. Got treated to another 3 wide here in the second dual race, but for a point, you guys were 4 wide and almost even 5 wide through the triangle coming back to the start finish line. How much visibility do you have to be able to make moves, throw blocks, figure out where the momentum is when you've got so many different drivers being able to utilize all those different lanes to ensure that you're going to be the first one back to the checkered flag?
Well, I'd say I could definitely see more on my right than my left. And thankfully, the momentum was on the right side, and I was able to block that. That was pretty much the only thing I could do in that situation. Because if I turn down any bit, I'm probably going to uh, hit Kenny off the track. And if I hold my line, I'm just giving myself a better chance. And then I saw the Red Bull car go up high, and that was the main block I had to make there coming to the line. And luckily was able to do it.
Well, an incredible career start for you here in the Baadteshop Superspeedway Series. 2 starts here tonight, 2 podium finishes, and a checkered flag. You sound relatively calm for a driver that was in some very perilous situations in the closing stages of both races. I mean, what is the adrenaline level when you're in a green-white checkered with all the different facets of this type of racing? We know that these cars are very capable of pushing, of being able to generate runs by themselves. Of course, there's the no yellow line rule that has to take into account. So, I mean, how mentally taxing, how physically taxing is it for a driver in that kind of a situation? Because you had to deal with it twice tonight.
Well, I've ran a lot of super speedway leagues in my time on this game, so over time the adrenaline got less. But I mean, still, when you're in the lead on a green white checkered, you know you have a chance, major chance at the win, and so it's just making sure you do all of the right things to put yourself in a position. Unfortunately, I was trying to um, make sure the 10 and the 60 didn't get clear there on the restart. But as soon as they did, because I was informed those were also teammates on the green white checkered there, I was hoping both of them wouldn't get clear. But then as soon as I heard, oh, they're both clear, I knew I had to run them up the track a little bit off two when they make the move there, but then just pull back down and try and get a push. And luckily, only one of them was able to get clear, which meant I wasn't fully boxed in. Like maybe I could push Kenny clear or whatever the deal was. But then I knew once we went to turn one on the white flag that I was going to be boxed in for the rest of the race. So uh, luckily, things happened that was able to put me in a better chance to win. But I kind of feel bad for Robert there because I felt like him and the 60 played it perfectly, and one of those two at least was going to win the race. I was going to stay committed to him. Who knows what would have happened there on the outside, though.
Well, an incredible debut for you here tonight, Benjamin. Back-to-back podiums in victory lane here at the conclusion of dual race number 2. Congratulations on the job well done overall here tonight. Before we let you go and get back to your celebrating, the floor is yours for victory lane. Thank you, sponsors and shoutouts.
I just appreciate again Matthew Rodriguez for hosting the league, letting me in here. I don't really have a whole lot of leagues to race anymore, so um, I got a reference from Barnes for this league, and it definitely was fun. I also appreciate you and Jeff for the broadcast. Ready to watch it back in a couple hours here, but yeah, just everybody involved, all the drivers for a clean race. Appreciate the congratulations, all that. So yeah, that's about it.
Benjamin White. He's your 6th different winner on the season as he takes the checkered flag here tonight in the second of the Dega duels, the winner of the Run Goose Run 80. Congratulations on the job well done there, Benjamin. Certainly an incredible first couple of races to start out here. Looking forward to seeing what you're able to do down the home stretch of this schedule.
Appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
Benjamin White with back-to-back podium finishes, and that means, folks, that more than likely he's going to be up there in the conversation for this championship as early as next week. The way that these points work, they reward you for good finishes and most importantly for victories. I know he's only made 2 starts, but we've seen drivers on a half schedule. As long as they finish well, they can be up there with drivers that have run the entire full schedule, and they still have a shot at the championship. Here's a look at your finishing results. Benjamin White with the victory, following up his third place in Duel 1. How about Cam Barnes? Great run for him in second. Roberto Ramirez in third. Career finishes for both of those drivers. Best finish as well for Brandon Lambert of his career, as he'll bring it home P4. Robert Kenny back-to-back top fives this evening in both the dual races, as he will complete the top five. Connor Holden brings it home sixth. Sean Billman going to finish in back-to-back top 10s. Had a fourth place run in Duel 1, seventh here in Duel 2. Dustin Longston brings it home in eighth. Sebastian Miller, folks. Do you remember that car that visited planet Jupiter back in the middle portion of this race? Yeah. Ninth place, he brings it back to finish in the top 10. And Shane Tyrion, who was involved in the caution that set us up for the overtime green-white checkered, he brings it home in the 10th position off the heels of his victory back in Duel number 1. So some great comeback runs right there. Scott Puckett going to bring it home in his first start in the 11th spot. Mike Tellier in 12th. Cody Lamas in 13th. Jason Shuey going to be 14th. And Matthew Rodriguez will finish out the day in 15th place. Chad Winstead, Robert Panko, Sam Dyer, Bronson Stafford, and Steve Rada, the top 20. Back-to-back pretty poor performances there for the 61 of Bronson Stafford. We'll have to see where this positions him points-wise. Blake Trawick, who won the Dash for Dong last dual race, going to finish in 21st here in this one. He was one of the drivers that could have capitalized on the Dylan Poteet issues, but he may not get the points lead depending on how things shake out. Joey Chapman, 22nd. Carl Faust in 23rd. DJ Stagner, who we saw there during those post-race replays, took that big shot into the inside wall on the final lap. Brings home in 24th. Cole DeRosers in 25th. Jacob Halm, another tough break for him. Had a strong car here this evening. Was up in the top 5 for most of the 2/3 of this race. He suffers a 26th place finish. Ty Smith in 27th. Dylan Poteet, back-to-back weeks. iRacing Superspeedway last week. This week, upside down on his roof, had to call a tow, fell off the lead lap, never got back in the conversation. We're going to have to see where this situates him. Dylan Body, who did the fill-in driving for him in the first dual race, netted him a top 5, finishes just ahead of him. They were the last two drivers scored in this one. But 2 races in the books, 6 different winners on the season, and Toyota extends their winning streak to 3 straight races. Tellier last week at iRacing Superspeedway, and tonight it's Shane Tyrion in dual race number 1, and Benjamin White in dual race number 2. Next week, these drivers pack it up and they head to Atlanta, Georgia in preparation for the shortest superspeedway on the season, as we're at the Atlanta Superspeedway. Gonna set up the stage for Daytona and iRacing Superspeedway. We're in the home stretch towards the championship. Couple of drivers may have put themselves right in the forefront of the conversation for said championship here tonight. We'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out. Congratulations to Shane Tyrion on the victory in the Fly Goose Fly 80 earlier on, and to Benjamin White in only his second start, the winner of the Run Goose Run 80, the second of our Dega duels. Big thank you to Jeff Johnson for his hard work in the producing role. The shots that he gave us here tonight, exceptional. And I've been Seth Cole. Thanks for joining us here this evening. We'll see you guys next Friday night on the Twitch side at Split Second Broadcasting, on the YouTube side, on the Flat Out Racing Network, as we continue on the schedule here for the Upper Edge Racing Body Shop Super Speedway Series. Until 8:30 next Friday night, enjoy the rest of your week, folks. We'll see you guys next time.